Hey Art Club, welcome to the Starfish tutorial. Listen up. So today we're going to be painting a starfish at the beach on the shore. And what we're going to be using is a clean bucket of water. Let's see what else. We need a palette. Mine has acrylic, so don't mind it, it's dry. Your watercolors, of course. You can use the tubes or you can use the other ones that come in a flat form. But for Art Club, we're gonna be sharing our palettes with a partner. We're also going to be using your paper. It has to be watercolor. Mine that I have right now is mixed media, so it'll work fine, but you will be getting watercolors. And then you're gonna be using, for sure, a very thin one that you're going to share with a partner because right now we're kind of low on brushes. And then a larger brush. I will be using a pipette just to be able to add water from my cup onto the palette. So let's get started.
Yeah.
I also forgot to mention that every partner is going to get a big starfish and a small starfish for you to trace, okay? And then you can place them however you want. So obviously for tracing you need a pencil. So pause the video if you need a pencil. Don't mind that I'm pulling off my rabbit's hair from this one. It got some glue on it. All right, so I'm just gonna place mine here on this side and I'm gonna trace it. Okay, as you can see, I kind of did an overlap of the small starfish on top and just erase the line here. I just thought it would look cool. So now that you have this, if you need time, you can pause the video. Now that you've done the tracing, now it doesn't have to be perfect, you're going to be making like a little squiggly line because we're gonna be differentiating. That was my rabbit, if you hear him. We're gonna be differentiating from the water and the sand. So just kind of like this. Here, I'm gonna get it closer to the camera. So just squiggly. Okay, I think we're gonna be ready to start with our watercolor, all right? So I'm gonna be using a little bit of orange here. Remember, you are sharing with a partner. And you'll probably be using styrofoam plates, which are the same in that case. The only thing I like about these is that it's kind of like a little tiny cup because you can add water later on. Okay, the next one I'm going to use is this pink. I'm going to use red. You're only adding a tiny bit because remember the pigment is going to be using water and it's going to dilute. Okay, so these three are going to be used for the starfish. Now for the sand, we're going to be using the burnt sienna, which is like a light brownish orange color. Okay, burnt sienna. And obviously we're gonna be using, for the water, ultramarine blue. And believe it or not, we are going to be using green as well for the water. And I'll tell you later when we're doing the ocean why. And if you have a little bit of room, which I don't because I've already used all 6 spots, I'm just gonna put a little bit of yellow just in any spot so that I can make my blues and my greens a little bit of a lighter color, and you'll see how they'll work. Now I'll be using my pipette to get some water. And these, we don't want that much water, just enough to dilute it. Now, I realize not everybody might have that, so just grab a little bit of water with the big brush. Let the drops fall down. You can't really see it yet, but you will. Let me see if I can zoom in. We're zooming back out. Because you're sharing, you're gonna be putting it here in the middle between your partner and you, okay? And we're gonna be using the bigger brush. Now, this technique is called wet on wet. So, because you're gonna start off with the wet paper. So you grab your brush, and yes, you're gonna paint the starfish with water first. It seems silly, but you'll see why, okay? Oops, I'm gonna grab more water. Let me see if I can zoom in so you can see. Okay, so water. Okay, and I don't know if you can see my pencil marks are coming out. It's fine. Okay, so it's got water. Now look, I'm going to use this pink, okay? And this is called wet on wet because you're adding wet paint to wet paper. Look how cool that looks. That looks so cool. Leave it to dry a tiny, tiny bit. Okay, and if you want, just go here in the sections here. This looks so cool. So we're using pink for now. Okay, we're gonna use orange for the little guy over here. Orange and yellow. Okay. And let me get a little bit of the red. So grab some of that red and put it in the, ooh, in the middle. Look how cool that looks. That looks so cool. Okay, now leave it. Your brush has to be rinsed so that we can go over this one again. It looks super cool. All right, let's do the little guy. So wet on wet requires that you wet the surface first. So let's do the little guy. Now he is going to be orange. Okay. Now I'm using the bigger brush. I didn't go like this. I used it sideways. Okay, so if you want, you can use a smaller brush. Like this one, okay? Okay, I'm gonna use my, you know what, let's do a little bit of that yellow and put it in here with the orange. Look, look, look. So cool. It is so cool. Okay. We're gonna let that dry. So I usually start wet on wet first for pretty much everything, and then I'll go with wet on dry. All right, so let's get this baby cleaned up in your water. Make sure that you pause if you need to continue, because I know you guys are taking turns with some of the materials. Make sure you use a napkin, paper towel. Okay, with this big one again, now we are going to do, let's do the ocean, okay? The ocean is gonna be pretty fun. wet on wet technique. So, which means grab your water and you're gonna wet it. Now, if you see that there's a little bit of pink in your water, why don't you change your water, okay? And a bird just flew, and he might come around here. Yes, we have a lot of pets, okay? Hey, Bluey. All right, don't mess up my painting, Bluey.
Oh my gosh, I still got it.
All right. Guys, this is Bluey. He's Abby's little bird. He's so cute, but we don't need your assistance right now. All right, let's continue. Wet on wet. Oops. You see right here, it kind of came out. Just pull it in with a finger or napkin. Let me get a napkin. Because we want that to be blue. Okay, it's the wet on wet technique. Okay, now look at this. Okay, we are going to grab a little bit of the green with a little bit of this blue, and wow, look at this. It looks so cool. So spread it out with a little bit more of that blue. Spread it out. Okay. I'm going to dilute the blue by adding more water onto the blue. It just looks so cool. Okay. We're going to continue to add. If you need more water, you can. You can see it's already drying right here because it wasn't as wet. It's okay. All right, we're going to use the small detail brush. Grab the red. Okay. This is called wet on dry because this is wet and the paper is dry. And you're just going to outline, that is correct, your starfish. I got shaky hands, and that's perfectly fine if you do too. It doesn't have to be perfect because in a little bit, you'll see we're going to be dragging the red pigment with water. So right now, we're doing the outline. And it's supposed to be dry, but you see it's a little bit wet here. That's why it's going all over the place, and that's fine. If you've never gone, oh look, right here, just be careful here because the other little one overlaps. Anyway, I was gonna say, if you've never gone to an aquarium, you can look at them online, and there's such cool videos. I kind of like this weird effect because it reminds me of their little tentacles, which they have so many of. Okay, so we're sort of done with this. Now, with that same brush, you're gonna dip it in the water. Wet, you're going to drag the pigment from the outside to the inside. Okay, you're gonna use the same pigment. So all the white parts have some color in here. You're just dragging. And you do want texture, because if you've ever seen a starfish, they're not 100% smooth. I mean, they feel smooth, but they don't look it. Okay, grab more water and just drag the pigment to the center. That way we don't leave any white spots. Okay, and just okay, we're gonna let that dry. We're going to move on to our little guy over here. Okay, now rinse it, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to be outlining. So you're gonna do wet on dry because the paint is wet, very pigmented, and you are going to outline on dry paper. Now this is orange. Now the same thing we did with the red we're gonna do. Okay, so wet it. Wet it. Don't mind Abby, she's next to me and she's a little sick. Okay, and just drag it a little bit. Now we don't want to drag it all the way in because we still want to see some of that yellow. And then we're just gonna do a little circle in the middle. Okay, we're gonna let that dry, change your water, go to the restroom, whatever y'all need. We're gonna let it dry for now. I'm sorry, my camera was not on for some reason, I didn't notice. But with our small brush, we are going to be using our red to be making the little circles. So go on ahead and pause the video on this so that you can see the circles. And then on our small one, we made, instead of circles because it's so small, we made dots with the orange color. Okay, once it is completely dry, you can sign your name either with a marker or a pencil. I did it in watercolor using, again, the small detailed brush. And then on a different day, once we have all of our glow-in-the-dark supplies, we are going to be adding the glow-in-the-dark. And let me show you what we did. It's just regular acrylic paint, and all we did is we went around on the edges. So you can see my brush here has the pink glow-in-the-dark. And all we did was to go around with our pink. Okay, so the pink glow-in-the-dark. I'm shaking because I'm doing it with my left hand and I am right-handed. Okay. Okay. See? And we're gonna do the same thing with our small one, but instead of using pink, we're gonna use yellow. This yellow, whichever brand we get, they'll work the same under a blue or black light. And then I don't know if you see a little bit of it, but I used this blue Okay, it's also neon glow in the dark. And we're gonna be using those to make little circles. And I'm gonna take it right now so you can see it under a black light, okay? Let's go. All right, this is how it looks. So I have these black lights in Kevin's room and it looks so cool. Now it's not 100% dark, but you can see the little circles of the blue that we did. You can see the pink here. And you can see the yellow of it now in a pitch black room. It's gonna look so cool, much cooler than this. All right, and our cat approves.